start with quick intros for those that don't know us. My name is Nitu Walker. I lead Enablement and Activation for our Commerce Services go-to-market team. So these are with our strategic partners like PayPal, who's at our booth today.
And I'm Ritesh Somani, product management for Adobe Commerce, but specifically focused on said commerce services. Glad to see everyone here.
Understanding what that really means, and then kind of walking through a merchant journey of how they experience AI in the different parts of the payments journey, starting from underwriting and know your customer, going into how they can personalize payments with AI, and going into the analytics and reporting reconciliation, and of course, one of my favorite topics, fraud protection and risk assessment.
And one of the things that we're going to do today is really just unpack those two letters AI, right? I mean, sometimes it sounds very daunting. What we thought we would do is break it apart into these areas and talk a little bit more about, what AI could tangibly mean in sort of the customer journey to help everyone sort of, as you're looking at your own customer journey, figuring out, okay, where are the different places that make sense for me as a business, and how can I make this most effective?
All right, so when we think about AI and payments, I wanted to kind of break it down. So one, there's machine learning. So what does that mean? That's the algorithms and how it learns and how it performs and make those predictive data choices. Then we talk about natural language processing, or NLP for short. So this is where we can talk about customer experience. How can we make that better utilizing AI and utilizing that knowledge that we have as humans to kind of figure out, help the consumers or your customers. So thinking about chatbots, how to improve that customer experience so they're able to have all their questions answered immediately. And then neural networks, how do our mind works, and really identifying the patterns and anomalies. And this really ties into fraud protection and risk assessment.
This is probably the most complicated slide, and we're not going to get into any of these areas, so don't worry if you don't want to understand what neural networks or natural language processing is. But really, I think for the purpose of this session, we just want everyone to understand AI is basically computer systems doing things that typically required human intelligence, right? And we'll continue to break that down, but really being able to add now the resources of computing and the technology and where it is in order to deliver that customer experience.
Yeah, at the end of the day, AI is not taking over the human experience. We still need humans to do a lot of this. It's just AI is now helping us get a better experience overall. All right, let's talk about underwriting. So when we're thinking about the merchant journey, the first part is, all right, we need to understand what this merchant is doing, and there's a process to that. AI really helps streamline that process. So, when it comes to applying predefined rules and algorithms, it's really about creating an automation where we can find out, hey, we know merchant A sells these things, merchant B seems to do very similar things, and speeding up that KYC process. So instead of taking months or weeks, it can take days or even minutes. And then, like I said, that makes it faster and more consistent overall.
And it's really just, in the general sense of it, it's really profiling, right? Like profiling that experience, profiling that merchant, and trying to learn from that history so that you can apply it again and again. And what those two areas then lead to is the results are being able to approve more diverse businesses and supporting different types of business models. So what does that mean, right? Like, you may have people selling utility knives or something like that, and don't want that classified as a website that sells, more elaborate ammunitions or something like that, right? But sometimes, if we're not able to judge those effectively, then those type of businesses get grouped together, right? And I mean, then a manual underwriting probably needs to get done, and then that whole experience happens. And then in terms of different business models, right? International merchants, people who have different sort of subscription models, all of those things now, if you've got historical data and the systems can process it fast enough And you can use that historical data to then really assess new types of businesses in the right way.
So as we know our customer and they're getting onboarded, but really now the merchant is thinking about how do I make the payments journey for my consumer or my customer as personalized as possible. So when we think about personalized consumer experiences, I want to be able to pay exactly how I want to pay. So having flexible payment options or having those payment options be ready at checkout. So that way I don't have to find my payment method or it's already there. I think also when we talk about messaging for consumer retention, this is where the chatbots come in, where they really help with, hey, I need to find out this receipt. I need to find out where's my status of my return. I need to find out the transaction history because I don't remember making this purchase. Or did I sign up for that subscription? And utilizing that type of, whether it's, that customer support model to kind of help, make that experience better for a consumer. And along with messaging, let's think about in the sense of cart abandonment. When I go shopping, there's a lot of times I have a lot of things in my cart, but I'm not ready to make a decision yet. So I'll go away, I check my email, and hey, I get a message like, did you forget something? Or here's a discount for 10% off because you know that you're a loyal customer and you have things in your cart. These are just ways to kind of keep your customers not just shopping at your location, but keeping them coming back.
Yeah, and I think this is the area that most of us are sort of familiar with, right? Like the actual shopper personalization, the consumer experience, and a lot of the tools that we've seen in technology being deployed really focus in this area. And now with the newer AI technologies coming out, all of these can be done cheaper and faster, which is great, right? And just imagine, as Nitu was talking about, the payment methods. Not only is it payment methods at different points of the checkout, for example, right? Like if I'm at a product and I'm ready to do sort of one-click buy that we've seen on certain websites, maybe that is a certain type of digital wallet that we expose or something like that during that time. Versus, if I've got multiple items in my cart or my average order value is exceeded a particular amount, maybe a BNPL option starts to make sense. So really trying to customize some of those things for that specific situation can help with the conversion rate, can help to increase customer satisfaction, and helps with education, right? We in our payments offering, we have worked with merchants exposing buy now, pay later, and really providing the benefits both from a customer perspective, but also from a consumer perspective in terms of, hey, now I can complete this checkout, and I've got whatever it is, 3 or 4 interest-free payments in order to obtain that, right? And I'm sure all of you guys have seen the statistics from the holidays. BNPL just continues to go up because it is right at certain times of the year and for certain types of orders and that type of thing. So I think those are all considerations to make, and especially in that buyer journey.
Yeah, and I wanted to add also, like when we think about innovative payment methods, it's not just having all of the payment methods available, but it's about really customizing for your shopper. So if as I'm a consumer, I use, PayPal, or if I use buy now, pay later, having those type of marketing messages to me will more likely, hopefully get me back into your site and hopefully shop some more. So I think like it's really about utilizing everything at your disposal so that way we get that customer, retention.
And it also, just to finish up over here, it also is the avenue that you're delivering it on. So mobile versus desktop, right? And those two buying experiences differ a lot in the type of information and the type of content you can show, and the type of payment methods that you would surface, right? I mean, we've all made purchases on our mobile device, and if you have to, type in your whole card number, sometimes you'll end up fat fingering that on a phone versus, on the desktop, you might have something, saved on your browser or much easier to type in.
All right, so now that we have personalized, we know our customer, now from the merchant side, you need all of the data that you can have. So that way you're making the right decisions about your transactions history, your resourcing, and also being ready for peak season. So I think two things that we want to highlight is really about having real-time analytics, and then from those analytics, using your reporting and reconciling your reporting to have real-time exception handling.
And I would say, this area probably a lot more than some of the other ones we've talked about. I think there's a lot of strides that have been achieved in this particular space because now we can aggregate a bunch of information, because we can process it super fast, because we can utilize patterns and behaviors from before and apply it to the data. All of the sudden, real-time monitoring, like what does that look like? It could be alerts, it could be anomalies, it could be, changes that occur in terms of order velocity, the size of the actual order, any of that stuff can now be triggered pretty instantly. I know one of the things that on the real-time side that customers love for our payment services offering is the what we call a transactions report, and we're able to surface to merchants real-time status on not only approved transactions, but declined transactions, right? And how does that help? Well, real world example, there's two. One is customer service, right? So if someone was unable to place the order and then they call into customer service, they can really quickly find that order and understand why that wasn't placed. Because you could be a lot smarter than saying, hey, yeah, it didn't go through, try again. But if their bank is denying that particular payment method, there's no amount of try again that's gonna work, right? Like they need to go figure out with their bank what's going on. But now we can be smarter about those type of things. Or, as Nitu mentioned earlier, like the whole alert mechanism, now if there's orders that are being declined and maybe the shopper gave up on it, as a merchant, you can now go out and reach back out and say, hey, not only did we see you attempted to make a purchase, but we sort of know why that purchase didn't go through, and hopefully it's rectifiable. So let me go ahead and tell you what you need to do. And hopefully that leads to a finished sale, which will make obviously the customer happy, but obviously you happy when you get to book additional revenue. So a lot of that real-time data now can help with actually increasing sales, which is super cool.
I mean, the most frustrating thing as a consumer, which I've had happen, sometimes when I'm on my phone or my laptop, I quickly type or I fat finger my phone and I get a decline. And do I need to call my bank? Do I need to call the consumer? Like, I never know. So being able to see that and making those exceptions and being able to kind of fix it for a consumer, we've seen that at payment services, and we've seen that across the board with our partners as well, that, hey, this is what really has changed their sales cycle, and this is what changed why a customer has become a loyal customer.
And I'll just add one more point on the second area around reporting and reconciliation. Like all of the stuff that we think around reconciliation, sort of all the boring stuff about making sure things match, putting stuff into the accounting system, that's all there. But also now, especially in the payments arena, we can quickly get actual costs of transactions and surface that back to merchants. So whereas maybe in the past, you'd have to wait until the end of the month or until your actual paper statement came in and try to figure out how much you were charged, now on a transaction by transaction basis, and let's not call it real time, but near real time, you can pretty much understand what that transaction is costing and why, right? So again, sort of see a pattern or a theme here, then you could take all of this information again and use all that historical information to guide future purchases. So, maybe you realize that your customer base is primarily international, and so, they purchase with a particular type of payment method, and that incurs some type of charges, or you realize that, you've got a lot of low item carts, a lot of debit purchases, and so, you can now tailor experiences, and Nitu mentioned earlier, on how you actually message customers and approach them with different offers and discounts and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think, the data side of it is super exciting to me. And both of these areas, I think, are areas of progress.
Yeah, and I think adding to the data aspect, knowing what is happening at all times is really helpful in the sense you know your transaction volume, your transaction history, you know what your average order volume is. So that way you're also resourceful when it's a very busy season, so you know what to expect. So it kind of future proofs you as a merchant to kind of be ready for when the holidays, or if we have merchants that sell lawnmowers during the springtime when they need it. So that it really is the fun part of it. All right.
Your favorite?
I know. So I think why I think it's my favorite is because you see a lot of AI now in fraud protection and abuse protection and how we identify risk. So I think one thing I really want to talk about is that real-time risk evaluation. How do we work with our payment partners and fraud partners to really think about, hey, if I know that this customer is a loyal customer but they're getting declines, how do I stop that? So utilizing AI and fraud together, you're able to make better decisions to know, like, this is a loyal customer, let this order go through. This is not a good customer, never seen this before. They made 20 transactions in the past 2 minutes. This is a bot. And having all that data to know, like, you're able to approve more orders and you're also able to increase your authorization rates.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? The key is around allowing the right people through the door and stopping the people who are acting like they're the right people to come through the door. And it increases conversion rates. It increases sales, right? The way that we talk about it is like you're having a party, but you're locking the door for the guests that you want to come inside of the party, right? And a lot of the AI now, and it's been advanced in the fraud space a lot, really helps to understand. Like, let me give you another real world example, right? If normally I reside in California, but like I'm vacationing in Mexico and now I'm making an online purchase, typically, if I don't have all of those data points aligned, I'm going to look like an imposter, right? Because I've got my US-based credit card, but the IP address is going to show somewhere in Mexico. And typically, the first reaction would be, doesn't look like it's a safe transaction. But then going into that second area around data enrichment, now using all those different silos of data and bringing it together to now see like, oh, wait a second, right? Like, we recognize this card. We've seen this card used before, and it was made legitimately in domestic transactions, or we recognize this email address and it belongs to this individual. And so now all of a sudden, using all those little pools of data and aggregating them together, you can now approve scenarios that seemingly, like, even 3-4 years ago seemed like, oh, this might be suspicious, or one of those where like it goes into a hold queue and then you need people to come in and really evaluate whether that was a legitimate transaction. Or gone are the days, but like a decade ago, where like people literally made phone calls out, like, are you? Like, did you really want to purchase this thing? And then like send those transactions through. So all of those things now have become not only automated, but a lot faster, using AI and technology.
And then, like, looking at it, so we want to also talk about how we want to talk about velocity monitoring and anomaly detection. So with fraud, now there's more tools to be able to kind of know, all right, we know what your normal transaction volume is at this time of month or this time of year, and we've noticed an uptick. Is this real? Is this somebody just making fake orders? And then from like the anomaly detection, are you seeing something where a higher transaction volume, like somebody purchased your normal AOV is $100, but somebody just purchased $10,000 worth of product, might be a little suspicious. So it's really about also protecting you as a merchant and also providing that really awesome customer experience to your consumers.
As much as we'd like all of a sudden our average carts to double and triple overnight, sometimes it's just not realistic. But then the flip side of that too, right? You might be running a promotion or something like that. We've seen that with our merchants, right? All of a sudden you'll see an uptick, and then we figure out like, oh, they're running a promotion because it was Mother's Day and they sell flowers, for example, right? And so we would expect that type of thing and we can then detect what those anomalies, are they acceptable anomalies or not, basically.
Yeah. And then overall, like we say enhanced authentication processes, it's really about making sure that everything is working perfectly. It's about your transactions going through, the right people are purchasing from your location, and having that experience from the merchant side be positive with your payment provider and your fraud provider, and then from the consumer side, knowing that, hey, I can shop at this location with very much ease and be a repeat shopper. All right, well, that is all the slides I had because I feel like I didn't want to be too slide heavy, but if you have questions, that's what we're here for. And also, we have a booth and a lounge area too, and we are with our partner PayPal. Whew. I'm pretty sure like my phone should be doing that, but yeah. I feel like I've been seeing that a little bit more and likely because so I shop on Amazon and they know that I buy my air filters. I do get a nice little ad sometimes like, do you still need these? Like, do you need these? And it comes on a pretty timely basis every 3 months, right? So we have been seeing that more, and I think it's that predictive messaging. It's that like let's get this customer back because we know that that they're going to need these filters, right? Or I've seen it. I buy a lot of clothes, so I'm a shopper, and I will admit it. But I've also had it where Rail sends me an ad like, we know that you like the sweater that you bought a month ago. We have a new version of it in a different color and the same style. Here it is. So we're seeing more of this predictive messaging, and it's getting smarter, and utilizing AI to get it smarter does bring shoppers back.
I think the pushback right now is around, and I think what you touched upon, the recommendation side, right? Like, I think people are hesitant to automatically make a purchase because, well, what if the machine doesn't know exactly what I want, right? And as those algorithms start to get better and better, because I mean, if you take a concept that already exists called subscriptions, right? We're already in our lives allowing purchases to be made on our behalf on a regular basis. But in the case of subscriptions, we know what we're getting. We're getting the same thing over and over again, and that's fine. As soon as the recommendations start to get smart about it, I think, yeah, the concept of subscriptions combines, and you've got automated things just showing up at your house probably.
I just like talking to my husband's phone a lot to make sure I get what I want.
All right, I think we are at time.
We are at time.
But we're around for anything, or I'd love to hear if anyone has experiences on like how you have built in technology or AI into your shopping experience. I'd love to hear about it too. We geek on this stuff, so it's great. Thank you again for your time. I know it's a rough one right after lunch, but appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.